Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. We're going to have an awesome conversation today. I've been really looking forward to this one for multiple reasons, which you'll find out. So today I welcome on Forrest. So Forrest Smith, he is co-founder and CEO of this new, well, I don't know how new you are, Forrest, you can fill us in there, but up and coming red light therapy company called Kineon. And it's just been a game changer for my health. So I've been excited to get Forrest on the podcast to discuss not only what they're doing now in the red light kind of industry, but also kind of discuss my experience with their product as well. So Forrest is a dynamic entrepreneur and esteemed leader in tech hardware and industry. And he's been telling me that he's been doing a lot of work in China over the last few years around tech. So that's super interesting as well. His career trajectory with Kineon Labs stands as a testament to his unwavering optimism and innovative approach, which I can attest to because we've just spent the last few minutes discussing a few things, and he's definitely got a lot of optimism. So let's get into it, Forrest. Let's have this
Thank you
discussion
so much.
now. First things first. Again, I told you I'm Irish. Kineon, am I pronouncing it correct?
Yes, you are. It's actually, oddly enough, we started the company under a different name, but we got sued within 2 weeks of shipping our first products for a cease and desist. And we asked our community, we had a few different options, and Kineon was from the Greek for movement. And so I feel like half of what we're doing with our devices is helping people get back into movement and supporting them so they can get out of pain and stop taking kind of health damaging pharmaceuticals and use movement as a kind of motion as lotion as an adjunct treatment as well.
hmm and what we're talking about is specifically red light therapy, but different to what people generally think of red light therapy. When we think of red light therapy, we're either thinking of these big screens that we have to sit in front of, or we're thinking more of like the infrared saunas. But your product is very different to that. So, why did you decide to create a product that was going to be more mobile? Because that's what it is.
We found so we started the company with a mission, which was to improve the quality of life for the largest number of people we can in the most measurable way we can. And even before we looked at what kind of technology we would implement to be able to do that, we spend a lot of time trying to hold ourselves accountable. And we feel like there's a number of ways you can do that. The normal one is to kind of you have investors and you're accountable for an exit. With Kineon, we're accountable to our users for how their quality of life is changing, and that's how we hold ourselves accountable and do follow-ups with our users and how we like that's our North Star for everything from a design standpoint. And so with a selection of photobiomodulation or light therapy, the reason we selected it was when we started the company, and it's gotten a little bit better since then. There's some reasonable competitors coming into the space, but when we started the company, there was good laser-based products for dosing your body with photons and triggering kind of the outcomes that we'd like to from a health standpoint. And they were 30 to 50 to $80,000, and they were on a desktop and they were plugged into the wall. And so if you wanted to use it, you had to either be a professional athlete or go to a clinic.
Mhm.
And yeah, our goal was to take that essentially laser-based dosing technology and democratize it and make it something that people could build habits around so that when they have it, they can travel with it. We've gone through additional FCC protocols to be able to not have the rubber gloves come out when you're going through security to get on the airplane and all of this. Really anything we could do to kind of make it wearable, to make it a habit stacking option for people, because we believe that's what's really going to drive adoption and get people away from the harmful pharmaceutical approaches for pain and inflammation reduction.
Mm. It's attainable, is what you're saying. Like you want to make it
Yeah,
attainable for
that's
everyone
it.
because some of these, let's be honest, some of these red light boxes and therapies super expensive and most people can only dream of having access to something like that, and not everyone has benefits that they can go and to a provider and get access because depending on where you are your benefits may be crappy.
That's right. And with the panels that are out there, the other thing, so when we started the company again, you have the professional kind of laser-based devices on one side, 50,000 bucks kind of on average. And then the other side you have these panels, and the panels are a great kind of first generation of product because it gets it out there and lets people know that the red light therapy can help them and reduce inflammation and kind of anti-aging, reduce wrinkles, increase type 2 collagen. But the biggest thing that we see is reduce oxidative stress and reduce inflammation. But with that said, the reason those products were a first generation is with panels that you can't control the distance away very tightly. And if you move forward or backwards 2 inches, the dosing changes radically. And also with just using LEDs, so when you're not emitting directly on the skin, that's one piece. But with just using LEDs, they emit in a very broad kind of emission pattern, and that doesn't really help you to dose the internal tissue. And so, if you want to dose if you can get the dosing right, then you'll dose for things kind of like that more superficial tissue, reduce wrinkles, increase type 2 collagen, and increase fibroblasts, kind of an anti-aging, anti-wrinkle type, and wound healing actually is another one that would work with that. But if you want to treat the body internally, where really most of our mass is as a human, we have to do a lot more kind of complicated math and modeling for how those photons are distributed through tissue. And that's where we spend our time, tens of thousands of hours with our physiology and mathematics teams, to be able to model how we're dosing people at these different depths of tissue and what kind of outcomes are going to be most um, enabled by that. And so there's a number of different things that if you trigger reduction in oxidative stress and in inflammation in different parts of the body, there's a number of different outcomes you can kind of trigger with that. So how are we making sure that we trigger those in the most effective way, and basically making sure that we can deliver on our promises to our users? Because that's our mission as a company.
Mhm. So a couple of things here. First off, I'll say I try not to BS people. I try not to lie. If I've nothing to say, I won't say anything at all. So put it like that. So you mentioned a couple of things about protocols, user feedback, and habits there. So I'm going to just kind of fill you in on my story. And as a practitioner, hopefully it holds some water. So back, I'd been conversing a few times with one of your representatives, and she was super helpful. So the conversation was going great. But I got the Move Plus, as people can see it here, and I've kind of adapted it a little bit different for my needs. Um, so back in January, I started to get this terrible pain to the left of my belly button, and of course like we do. I was like, oh my God, I have pancreatic cancer, I'm dying. It turns out it was SIBO, because I had been very sick in January and I just ended up with SIBO, which I'd never had, but the pain was so sore. I was massaging my stomach and I'm doing everything and it wasn't helping. So then I got my hands on your Move Plus. And I was like, well, I have came across some research on gastrointestinal inflammation. I wonder if the red light therapy could help me. And you know yourself, when you get these, they're much further apart because they're designed to be wrapped around joints. And lucky for me, I don't have any knee pain. So I tightened it and would place it across my belly button so it would cover my small intestine. And like everyone, I was like, oh, I don't know if this will work, but I'll give it a try. So I was doing 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes in the evening. Now, full transparency, I was also doing a SIBO protocol as well. But I genuinely, because I'm quite in tune with my body, genuinely felt an improvement with the red light therapy. So I'm doing it in the morning, and then when I read my book at night, for people who are interested, it has a timer on it. So it'll set for 5, 10, or 15 minutes. So I always set it for 15, and I use that for my timer of reading my book. So when that beeps, and every time it beeps and vibrates, I jump every single time. But then I put my book down. But I genuinely believe it has helped with my SIBO. the pain has subsided greatly. I can feel a difference. Again, I'm not just putting flattery out there because you're on the podcast. I genuinely, so I also work with the Molecular Hydrogen Institute, and I've had Dr. Tyler LeBaron on the podcast, and I'm a huge advocate for molecular hydrogen. I've been using it forever, and I came across some research which I sent to your Instagram page, and I believe your company reshared it, showing that photobiomodulation paired with molecular hydrogen has amazing activity in the intestines. Now, although I'm targeting the small intestine, it did specify the large intestine, and I do unfortunately have a couple of clients that have colon cancer, so I sent that to them as well. But the research is solid, and I really, like, genuinely only get people I want to speak to on the podcast. And I genuinely feel that this works, has made a difference. So then I sent your girl a message and I was like, I've been using it like this. It's been great, but like, couldn't you create like a bigger strap so I could put it on me and just wear it moving around the house? Because I have to stay in the one spot. And she's like, well, it just so happens we have one. Oh, okay. And she said, you're also coming out with another panel. I think it's called Heal, specifically for the gut. How many people have gut issues? Like a
So
million
many.
plus people.
So many. It's
This
crazy.
has been very, very helpful for me, like very helpful. Like I just
Oh,
can't
that's so
say
I'm
enough.
so happy to hear that. Again, that's our mission as a company is exactly what you're saying is seeing people have these kind of results. And yeah, we have a gut specific product that we're launching this summer that I will send you a version of. I love the fact that you're using it. I was actually going to mention as one of the protocols that I do on a daily basis, even without gut issues. I don't really have anything wrong with my gut. But we've been working with a Japanese lab that developed a protocol called the proximal priority therapy.
Mhm.
And essentially, it's part of a abscopal or remote kind of treatment program. So you treat one area of the body, and then you see results in another. And kind of without having it sound too much like out there, essentially one of the reasons that you can do that is you have two really large blood vessels coming through your neck, and one of the largest photoacceptors that we interact with is hemoglobin. And so when you're treating hemoglobin, you're dissociating. One of the big pieces is you're dissociating nitric oxide. So you're dumping a bunch of nitric oxide and enos into your cardiovascular system, increasing cardiovascular health over kind of that cardiovascular endothelial tissue. One of the measures for that is how elastic it is, and you increase the elasticity around it. But treating the neck and then lower abdomen has increased cardiopulmonary, cardiovascular performance, and also immune health. And one of the downsides for this, like the upside for this from a kind of technology standpoint, is we're at the front end. There's 7,000 papers, and we contribute to an international group that helps kind of collate these from a medical research kind of tagging the characteristics of the light and why is it working, and we follow a number of these different things and contribute to them for the scientific and medical research community. But we also see that there's a number of different things where we see treatment for the gut, and you see increased insulin sensitivity. You see these immune impacts downstream where we don't really know in some cases what's modulating these. So we see an increase in things like short chain fatty acid in the gut, which is a kind of a healthy byproduct from your gut biome. But is that what's triggering the immune health downstream? So we have the ABC, kind of like how is the dosing working? And then we have the XYZ, like I don't like personally, and this is N of one, so kind of grain of salt it generally, but there's also some reasonable research around this from a medical standpoint that when you treat your gut, I don't get sick anymore. I've got two boys, 9 and 5, that bring in stuff from like a flu or a cold or whatever from school all the time. And it used to just be that like you'd get it and like the whole family would get it, and then you just keep moving. I don't get sick anymore. And my daily treatment is this proximal priority therapy on the neck and the lower abdomen over that large intestine. And we're seeing more and more of this delineated, and the research around it becoming more and more powerful and giving us better and better answers to kind of fill in more of that alphabet kind of that we're missing in between. But it's just exciting to be in that space and see the outcomes that we're driving with no pharmaceuticals. So no kind of nasty byproducts, just increase health, which is your gut's just so much at the center of it that it's awesome to hear your experience on that.
I think it's important for companies like yourself, and I even do this with the Molecular Hydrogen Institutes, to get real life feedback, especially from practitioners, because I'm dealing with people every day and thinking outside the box, obviously, of what a scientist would think or you're
Yes.
doing in the lab. I'm saying, no, like, this is what I'm seeing. This is happening multiple times and it's been effective. And I wonder, the red light, well, different UV lengths directly influence our good bacteria. So those anaerobic bacteria in the intestine, I, I would assume there's some proliferation going on there and sterilization of the bad bacteria. Plus, you've got different UV lengths directly influence mitochondria activity, which I
Mhm.
would love to speak about next. We see this Dr. Jack Cruz a bit
Yes.
out there sometimes in what he says, but the research is solid that UV light does activate mitochondria directly in our skin, and most people don't even think of we produce energy in our skin, and we do.
Yes, and internally, and again with the dosing that we're doing with the infrared as well, you see, so the short-term increases up to 12 hours or so will be roughly 60 to 100% ATP increase. And we're actually playing around with, and this is kind of the first time we're going to be talking about it kind of publicly, but we're also playing around with one of the things that you do when you interact with the mitochondria with the infrared light is very similar to what you see with hemoglobin. There's an enzyme in the electron transport chain called cytochrome C oxidase. And it's a bottleneck for energy production. And two things that actually speed this up. And you mentioned Cruz, and he's a big fan of the exclusion zone water, kind of around the mitochondria. That the liquid around your mitochondria can be gummed up, for lack of a better term. It loses the ability. It will slow down. You have more or less biological motors that are embedded in the phospholipid bilayer of your mitochondria, and it slows down the spinning of those. So when you can thin that out, that exclusion zone water, it increases the motor speed. But also when you can dissociate that nitric oxide from the cytochrome C oxidase, it removes that as a bottleneck, and so it pushes this bottleneck downstream a little bit. And so one of the things that we've been playing with is methylene blue and some NAD kind of precursors. And so what we're seeing right now in our early tests with this is when you can combine light therapy with these different kind of mitochondrial support mechanisms or compounds, you can shift that bottleneck more than one time. So every time you shift it, you see this bump up in energy production, and we're shifting it now four times with this new supplement that we're working on that we'll also be launching this summer. So it's super exciting space to be in. And again, I hopefully it's I do tend to kind of steer into the
I can
optimistic side of
feel
these
it.
things.
I can feel your excitement. So if I'm correct, what you're referring to is deuterium in the spinning heads.
That's
Um,
right. That's right.
I've had Dr. Q and Dr. Ann from the Center for Deuterium Depletion on the podcast. So
Oh,
that's
that's awesome.
another thing that I'm quite passionate about. Hydrogen, clean water, the whole lot, because as we get older, we build up, to put it in simple terms, everyone, we build up a lot of crap in our cells and we need to
Yes.
clean it out, because it does slow down that energy production motor. So it's really cool that you're doing that. You guys should, I'll give you this free tip. You should look into chlorophyll. Liquid chlorophyll has been shown to be quite effective for clearing out the cells and lowering deuterium. And then we've got its influence on the cytochromes. Plus, it can help with metabolization of iron as well. Anyway, I'm just saying you
That's
should
awesome. I love
consider
it.
chlorophyll. I really like chlorophyll because that's part of my stack as well, is, well, everything. If you saw how much I spent on supplements a month.
But I mean, obviously, it's working. Again, we talked a little bit off camera about solve the big problems first, get your sleep, get your diet nailed down. But then it's also just nice to play once you've done that. And then probably stress being number three, try to reduce stress as much as you can. But once you've done that, there's also just these awesome things. And it's really exciting. And as an optimist, I have to say, just to give it a bit of a caveat, it's a really exciting time to be alive because up until this point, there's been so many negative impacts from technology in our lives. So, we see one of the reasons we see such poor gut health in so many people is environmental. You see this microplastics, you see kind of dietary processed food. Like there's really a lot of things environmentally that are harming us. But we've kind of gotten to a point right now where if you want to, you can go apply knowledge and technology to improve your life in a really powerful way. And it's just exciting to see all of these different things that you can stack in and really see a meaningful change in your life.
Yeah, I agree. And for many people, it is time to start taking responsibility for their health. And we have now these tools that are more attainable with thanks to your company that we can have our own pretty much medical office at home at this stage. You could treat nearly everything. So, which just circling back, because I have been talking a lot about cancer lately, that research is pretty solid on red light therapy for cancer treatment. And I don't know how many people are aware of it. I'm sure you know, and I won't drop names, but there is a patent out there on red light therapy and methylene blue for treating cancer. Like that patent is there. We've admitted it works.
Yes. Yes, and there's a lot more that we're seeing progression on with this. There's a we don't they're more of a clinical level device manufacturer, but one of the guys in the space that we know who does a great job kind of researching and designing building products, James Carroll at Thor, has a new product and some research they've come out with that we just saw earlier this week on oral mucositis. So people who are getting radiation on different cancer areas it's you end up getting a lot of sores and these really uncomfortable things that interrupt your sleep and recovery, both in your mouth and also in your gut. So these sores or these kind of mucositis sores are kind of a disruption of the mucosal lining, and yeah, just painful and not nice to go through. And the laser therapy and the red light therapy has been kind of approved as a treatment for this now. And it's really nice to see that it's not just kind of the adoption we've seen so far is more based on things like skin masks or panels. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. That's great. It's getting kind of the technology out and an awareness built. But what we're able to do with these by integrating more complex photon delivery models and really the lasers into the systems for treating internally has just been super powerful. I can't wait to see the next 10 years of this. There's a ton behind it. We're actually moving in the direction of sensing with this so that we can kind of personalize the dosing. So we can, as an example, we can measure nitric oxide, or we can measure cytochrome C oxidase function in real time and dose you differently than we dose me. Because there's a number of different things from a personal level that actually uh, kind of impair or increase the uptake of these photons from the different photoacceptors. So it's nice to have a feedback loop in this, and we see that kind of as a way to make sure that we can get, the main thing is start treating this. Invest in your body now so that you don't have those problems later. If you start treating your body well, dieting better, reducing oxidative stress, reducing inflammation, those downstream impacts. And we're seeing things. We just finished a grant for Alzheimer's as an example. Photobiomodulation for Alzheimer's, if you can start people early on it, Alzheimer's is really powerfully impacted by neurovascular performance in the brain. And that's not something that's really been on the radar. People have been researching kind of these protein plaques versus the neurovascular performance. And what we're seeing is that the cognitive impairment is really more tightly coupled with the neurovascular side of things than it is with the protein. So when we can start noticing that and improving people's neurovascular performance, decades early, the outcome is that they don't see that cognitive decline they would have otherwise. And so it's super exciting to kind of, especially when you see something that's really just those nasty pathologies like that. Anytime that you see, if you're around dementia or Alzheimer's, it's not just the individual, it's the entire family and friends and like everything around them that's impacted by this. And it's just awesome to be able to bring some optimism and kind of prevention to that space as well.
Mm. So I'm going to hold you there for a minute because I did want to transition to pain, but the pain I was more thinking about was migraines in women, especially hormonal migraines, which can be, of course, you've never experienced them, but debilitating, like so painful. Women can't get out of bed, they can't live their lives. So as you're speaking about the Alzheimer's, I'm wondering, well, then how are you utilizing this? So for something like the move, are we applying it directly to the neck? Are we applying it to the back of the neck where the auxiliary nerve is? How would you
Let me
use
grab my
something like that?
mine's charging. Give me 2 seconds. I'm ready. So sorry, I was just using it. And I ran out of batteries this morning because I was coming back in from travel. So I do the same thing as you. I use mine for my gut and I pull them very, very close together. This is our new strapping system that we're just launching now that'll make it easier for user experience and just a nicer user experience overall. But I just got back in from our factory partners, so I've got the newest and kind of best here.
Kind
So
of how
I do
I
this.
lined mine up. I don't work for you, but clearly I'm just as smart.
No, you nailed it. Like that's exactly what I do for my lower gut every day. So 15 minutes like that. And then we also do one around the neck where I put the basically the two vertical ones over these vertical blood vessels in the neck. And it's one of the best places in the body because it's very near to the surface of the skin. And it's really large volumes of blood going through there. And so treat here and then treat your lower gut. And this is from an abscopal treatment standpoint, the best combination that we've seen for basically everything. There's some other research groups that treat your large leg bones, so kind of treating over your quads, and see positive impacts for that. They've been measuring more like stem cells, mesenchymal stem cell generation, and a couple of other things. For us, what we'd like to see is kind of those outcomes versus the middle steps, because the middle steps being whatever they are, as long as we're delivering the outcomes, then we're delivering what we promise for our users. And so that's the most recent one that we've done though is migraines. So one note of migraines, and there are some female specific causes for it that we actually do treat very well. Um, but with headaches in general, there's 9 different factors that are kind of variables for causing those. 7 of those, and I can send you we did a blog post on this. 7 of those we treat effectively. We want to be very upfront about what we can help with and what we can't. 7 of those we treat effectively. 2 of them we can't. They're more mechanical, and we just couldn't interact with those as much. But I can send you through the blog on that because it's really nice to be able to see it. And we also one of the note that your comment triggered is we, as most product teams, lean very male. And so a lot of the kind of female pathologies weren't really on our roadmap. But this is my first direct-to-consumer business, and so we wanted to keep a very strong connection in with our users. And so we have a great user group that we talk to almost daily. And one of the things that came back out of their use cases was endometriosis. And so we've had, high tens, like maybe 100 people now come back in and say, endometriosis was killing me. I couldn't get out of bed. I was laid up for like 3 days, and like there's no pharmaceuticals that helped it. There was nothing, and I would use the Move Plus and go from an 8 out of 10 to a 2 or 3 out of 10 in pain and become functional again. And again, you have to take those with the kind of grain of salt when it's the first 5 of them. But after you've got like 100 of them, it's like this is crazy. Why doesn't
Something's
anybody
happening.
like and no one's launched a product in that space. So we are going to launch a product in that space, essentially kind of treating endometriosis, menstrual pain, and then also it has a very powerful impact for fertility. Uh, and so polycystic ovarian syndrome and endometriosis are 2 of the larger when we flagged, and so just not to like say like this wasn't on my radar first, but
Keep going.
when we flagged this that we had a huge gap and an ignorance in this space, we went and spent a lot of time trying to read up on this. And so polycystic ovarian syndrome and endometriosis are two of the largest causes for poor fertility in women and female fertility tissue. And we treat both of those very, very effectively. And so there's really great research. Again, that Japanese lab that we're working with does some awesome research on raising fertility rates in women with photobiomodulation. And so we're releasing our product later this year specifically for that. But it's just been crazy to see that no one addresses this. And I think a lot of it's just because, like us, most of the teams kind of skew male.
So a couple of things before I forget. When you do launch that product, I would absolutely love to have you back on the podcast. This is huge. Like this is for you to take on this initiative, I can say is genius. You have no idea how many women I talk to alone that are struggling with this issue. And it would make sense that it works so well because endometriosis partially an inflammatory disorder, but also there's a lot of inflamed blood, the
Yes.
sticky, gluggy blood. And by reducing that inflammation, which is part of like a PMS or a Menses protocol we would do is let's get the inflammation down to ease the pain. Like it would make sense that it's working. Pair that with progesterone and you're probably onto a complete game changer there. And back to the pain, the neck. I appreciate that you demoed it, why I think my followers will as well. So with PMS and hormonal migraines, generally we'll see a lot of tension in the auxiliary nerve back here. And that's where, as you were demoing, I'm like, well, I'd probably apply one of the red lights to this nerve because as we were speaking to offline about hormones, if using progesterone for something like a menstrual migraine, that is exactly where we would apply the progesterone would be on that nerve to help to release some of that tension and just help with blood flow there as well. So,
That
and
is awesome.
progesterone is one of the primary treatments for endometriosis and PCOS, along with like the nutrition and lifestyle that we mentioned. But I not to compliment you, but I am. That's really, really smart to do something
Thank
like
you. That's
that
awesome.
because a
And I can't
lot
wait. This is, oh, sorry, go ahead. Yeah,
I was going to say, as eager as men are for their health, what I'm seeing, and a lot of the other doctors and practitioners I speak to, we all agree that women generally are going to be more proactive than men when it comes to certain things. So if you were looking to corner some market here, that would be where you would go because we're usually the ones hounding our husbands. You need to do this. You need to. But a woman, if she because of our hormonal system and how God created us, I'm sure he had a plan, but we do suffer in a lot of pain in certain aspects of our life and we're very proactive. And of course, you've got the nurturing aspect. We want to be around for our kids and our family. So women tend to be more proactive at buying supplements or buying products if they genuinely think it's going to help. So I really think this is genius, and I would love to have you back on when it comes out because
that's
so
fantastic. And I hadn't even considered about the progesterone as a part of a protocol for this. And I think this is one of the things that discussions like this really drive is you sit on and we're kind of behind the curtain designing products and then occasionally poke our head out and we can actually interact with people. But you sit in front of people whose lives are impacted by what you do with them every day. And so this not to whatever, but I'm super excited about this because I think there's a number of different things that by working with you on these type of protocols, we can actually have these synergistic leaps in outcomes for women in this space. Yeah, that's just awesome. Super exciting.
like you're like you said, you're behind the curtains, you're creating everything, but I'm getting real-time feedback all the
Yes.
time, and certain things don't work, and then we're
Yeah.
on to the next thing. And then just one more protocol, what you were saying about the mouth sores, because my clients going through chemotherapy will get that, and it is that inflammation of the mucosa and the immune system. You can have this free protocol as well. And I've spoken to Tyler LeBaron about this. If you have a client post chemo who has mouth sores or ulcers or any sort of lesions in their mouth, you get them to slowly drink molecular hydrogen water and hold it for a few seconds in their mouth because it penetrates the tissues in like seconds. But within 12 hours, if not by the next day, those mouth sores are completely gone.
Wow,
Completely gone. The thing
that
with
is awesome.
molecular hydrogen is, apart from being absorbed through the tissues as it's going through the digestive tract, the majority of molecular hydrogen gets absorbed in the small intestine. So then
Mhm.
where does that leave us with the large intestine for any inflammation or diverticulosis? And that's where the red light therapy would come in.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. And one of the things that we're doing with the methylene blue, and I can't believe we haven't kind of looked at this, but it could be a kind of adjunct treatment with the hydrogen, molecular hydrogen water, is we're working on a couple of different things that penetrate that. So instead of digesting that methylene blue, you want it to penetrate through your buccal or sublingual tissue directly into your bloodstream, and there may be something there with the hydrogen water to be able to increase that level of uptake. That would be an awesome thing to test.
And molecular hydrogen gets absorbed in 10 minutes. So once that 10 minutes is over, then you could bring in the methylene blue as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
We'll all just be
Oh, that's
walking
so
around with
exciting.
blue teeth. And there's a lot, like these conversations are great because I always hope to give a bit of information back to
Yeah.
creators as well of what I'm experiencing. And even some of the leaders in bioidentical hormones, like Dr. Rosensweet, he is not aware of certain things that I see, like pregnenolone and how it influences estrogen. Like I see this, even though he
Yeah.
thinks it doesn't happen. I'm like, but it does. I'm seeing
Yeah.
it. So it's really great. That's podcasts are great for this reason. It's not only
Yeah.
educating the listeners, but it's educating each other too.
Yeah, that's awesome. And spread the positivity and spread the information. That's fantastic. And again, you have that hands on the pulse of exactly what's happening. And so that's super exciting for me because a lot of times we're doing surveys and things like this to try to find the same information, but you just have it intuitively like, no, this is the exact right path for what to pair it with. So I'm super excited about this. Would love to discuss with you further anytime you have time. This is awesome.
I hope your team's not angry with me for going off plan a little bit, but
No, no,
this
no.
is
This is
how I
great.
roll. So we've covered quite a lot. We've covered, let's just, I suppose, converse a little bit more around the gut health hormone aspect of things for a few more minutes, if you don't mind. So I'll let you begin. Like, what else are you seeing around the red light therapy and its therapeutic effects in gut health? Have you seen, I've mentioned SIBO, diverticulosis, I'm sure is great. Have you seen anything else?
So the main thing that we've kind of flagged with pathologies is anything that's mediated by inflammation. So ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, we actually have a business partner. This is one of the reasons why we started off on the trajectory for the gut health. And he used to have these flare-ups where he would lose 40 or 50 pounds, have to be in the hospital, for months at a time and just really disrupt his life. And now as those flare-ups start, you can actually just treat them to reduce that inflammation and get him back into, it still takes a couple of weeks for him to get back 100% on track, but that used to be months and like much heavier physiological impact. So that's the exciting piece is kind of getting that inflammation down short term, leaky gut, brain fog. Um, what they refer to it as one of the ones the reason that I do it or that I've kept doing it, I started off with just a test protocol, but doing the neck and the gut. In the medical research, they call it affect, but it's really just your mood and how you feel, and it's just great. It took 10 days to 2 weeks of using the device on kind of neck and lower gut, but you produce so much of your systemic neurotransmitters in your gut that again, not just us, but we believe that this is one of the things that's kind of mediating this ongoing uplift in affect, and we're seeing that kind of it's not conclusive yet, but we're seeing that general trend as a research kind of from the medical research space around this. So that's exciting. And just feel better on a daily basis is a really nice thing.
Yeah, and it's true, people. It's true. I swear I'm not just throwing out compliments lightly because I generally don't. It would make sense. I recently had a woman say, so she said to my sister, and my sister passed it to me. So she said, yeah, so and so said that there's no cure for her ulcerative colitis, so now she's just getting surgery. And I was like, That's a load of BS. So, but
Yeah.
people are selling for surgery, which, and even with the SIBO, I knew, well, no, even though I'm a practitioner, it's not going to be 2 weeks. It's going to take weeks now. And it has, but I'd rather be where I am now than where I was back in January.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that would make sense. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, in regards
Certainly.
to the mental health, that would make so much sense because we know that the more inflamed your gut is, the more endotoxins or lipopolysaccharides you create and you dump into your bloodstream, which directly affects mental health. So again, reducing that inflammation inadvertently is reducing the endotoxins.
That's exactly it. And you can even and we're releasing a brain version to go with the gut version a little bit later this year. But gut and brain are so tightly tied that when you can reduce those endotoxins and also increase the blood flow directly with the increase of nitric oxide in the brain and just those strong impacts from a cardiovascular neurovascular standpoint, the outcome is additive. And so you have this gut brain connection. We actually, one of the things that's come out of that as well from a research standpoint, this is where our team is. We Now that I'm thinking about it, we get pulled down rabbit trails, but it's all in the goal of really helping people improve their lives. But we did some testing with some of the early gut products, and you see really powerful brain and kind of cognitive impacts. So lower kind of brain fog, people just feel better. But about 15% of the people that we were testing didn't see that impact. And when we dug into it and kind of peeled back the data a little bit, what we found was those people were in this kind of fight or flight um, autonomic state. And so we've now developed and we'll be launching Q4 of this year a vagus nerve stimulation device that takes you out of fight or flight so that you can see the benefit you can see the brain benefit of your gut being healthier, essentially.
I would wonder if you had someone place either the move or one of the other devices around the adrenals in a state of adrenal dysfunction, could you make a difference there? So that's
I
something
don't know. That's a great
you
question. I need to
have a
dive into
whole,
that now.
eventually I'll give you so many ideas. You're gonna have to name something after me.
That's right. That's exactly it. But this is what we get excited about. Our team are like technologists, and again, everybody something about having this mission and wanting to measure how we're impacting people's lives has just pulled in magnetically these really powerful thinkers, both from kind of the laser side and the physiology side and the bioinformatics, and everybody is really wanting to contribute in a meaningful way for it. And so we just end up with these awesome ideas that spin out into products relatively quickly. And again, the what drives us is it's nice to see the company growing, which is great. But what really drives us is we see these great testimonials from people, and our team posted in. We have a Slack channel that's specifically for that. And as the company grows, it just comes in faster and faster. Like every day, you just see these life-changing testimonials of like how it's moving the needle, where somebody couldn't sleep, through the night for 10 years because of chronic pain, and now they can, and they couldn't walk up the stairs, and oh, my wife can walk across the grocery store instead of using the little carts. It's amazing to be in the middle of this space right now. And
Isn't
I'm
that,
sure that you see the same thing much more kind of like
isn't it?
directly, but for us, we're behind the curtain, and it's just awesome to see that.
But just to kind of with the conversation myself and yourself were having before we record, isn't that important though? Isn't that life changing to be able to get up out of bed without holding on to anything, to walk down the stairs without holding on to rails, to be pain free throughout your whole life? Like that's the important stuff right there.
It is, and it's just so exciting for us to be able to impact people that way and get them away from like, oh, I was on opioids for 5 years, and now I've been able to reduce the pain enough to where I don't have to take the opioids anymore. These type of things, that's exactly why we started the company and why we put this mission is, and again, it's great to see the company kind of growing and more units going out there, but it's not like, that's not changing anyone's life from our company side. What's changing our lives is how much we're impacting our users. And so, being able to have discussions with you today that's going to inform this, I've got 15 different things buzzing back out of this that are going to go back into our product team and really drive change and hopefully bring back out a better product that helps people.
So, we're coming up on time. There's just a few more things I want to squeeze in, but just for
Please.
our listeners, we've kind of primarily spoke about gut health here, and reducing the inflammation is so important in your gut for so many reasons, like we've mentioned. But in regards to hormones, ladies and men, a big part of how we detoxify estrogen is through our gut. So prioritizing your gut is so, so important because you do not want that buildup of estrogen. And the next one would be through the liver. Have you guys looked at anything to do with the liver in regards to fatty liver or helping with metabolic syndrome or anything?
Yes, and it works for both. This is great. I love this. So
This wasn't on the list, by
non-alcoholic,
the way.
but I think you could just kind of poke me, and I would like I would happily dance about this because we just spend all of our waking hours in this space from a research standpoint. But non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is really big and is typically paired with uh, kind of pre-diabetes or diabetes because if you're not drinking, you're doing something that's impacting your liver in this way. And so a couple of things that it impacts. One is it impacts the liver directly, and there's some great literature on non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, kind of reducing and then reversing by using photobiomodulation with it. But a couple of other things are when you increase cellular activity and function from an energy generation standpoint, one of the downstream impacts of that is um, insulin sensitivity, and then more ability to use sugar more effectively out of your blood. And so a lot of times people have like with their insulin issues, you get stuck not being able to really kind of use the blood sugar that you have, and that there's kind of liver impacts from that as well downstream. And it impacts all of these different things around it. So you can treat different areas, treating white adipose tissue around the gut, and then treating the liver specifically. The white adipose tissue, it browns more, it starts activating kind of if you're in a caloric deficit, you don't really when people are in pre-diabetes or diabetes, they don't really immediately start using that kind of white adipose tissue as energy effectively. It's hard to mobilize it. This actually helps you mobilize it faster. You build more mitochondria in there, so your body like you just become healthier where your adipose tissue is, and that also works in conjunction with the liver treatments directly, which is super exciting and yeah, I think even with alcoholic kind of fatty liver disease, you see a powerful impact as well. So there's this when you treat your energy systems properly and help them kind of manage stress and increase the functional energy output, it seems like it would just be an energy thing, but really it's everything in your body has a couple of purposes. And in this case, it's metabolic, but it's also signaling. And those signaling pathways are the ones that are driving a lot of the downstream pathologies if you have prediabetes or diabetes. And so it's kind of a lot from a biochemistry kind of aspect to take in. And we don't really talk about it that much because it's not super approachable. But just fixing your metabolic health and your mitochondrial health really wipes out a lot of downstream pathologies, at least from a probabilistic standpoint.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. You want to get your health working properly, get your metabolism working, reduce inflammation. Like, seriously, that's where your focus should be, and everything else starts to fall in line then.
Yes, 100%. And it's nice to see that because it gives you things you can target. The questions it raises for a lot of people who aren't familiar with photobiomodulation or the medical literature are, how is it possible that you're helping, with gut and with fatty liver disease? And you're like, it's actually not necessarily those two things. Those are downstream impacts from reducing oxidative stress and increasing energy and reducing metabolic dysfunction. And so yeah, there's a lot of reasonable kind of cynicism about it because there's a huge list of things that photobiomodulation impacts positively that you can kind of see great outcomes from. And people are like, what is this? This is snake oil. There's no way that you're impacting all of these things. But it's really metabolism and oxidative stress and inflammation. And when you impact those three things, like the downstream is just super powerful.
Yeah, for sure. And I agree because again, I wouldn't, I probably wouldn't have had you on if I didn't believe in it because I get a lot of requests. And if I don't believe in something, it's pointless to me having someone on just for the sake of it. So this is something I really believe in. And just kind of wrap it up now for my listeners, because a lot of listeners, and I know you all have like bursitis. One of you just got pec surgery yesterday, so you need help with healing. I think this is a very viable tool. Many of my clients unfortunately have arthritis, some sort of osteoarthritis. A device like this can be placed directly over where you're having the pain. And I'm confident, and I don't make it, but I'm confident that you will see relief. And one more thing, maybe an idea for you, but you probably already thought of it. People that have severe osteoarthritis in their hands, had you considered making gloves with red?
We are going to make some gloves. The downside is there's so little tissue in your hands. This is one of the ones where, and I know we're out of time, but I just a small story on this. My mother and father have been super supportive all my life as an entrepreneur. My mother has osteoarthritis of the hands, and one of the things that we found from our dosing models is that the hands are going to take longer. And it's one of the only times that I see my mother like, is this actually working? Because it took 2 months for that kind of osteoarthritis to reverse in the hands, where we see much faster results. But we want to be upfront with everyone about the expectations. And so if you are treating the hands, you can treat wrists and treat upstream a little bit, and it'll speed it up some. But really, it's going to be 6 to 8 weeks before you start seeing that real impact in the osteoarthritis of the fingers. And again, it's basically because there's just less tissue there. So hips and knees, shoulders respond much faster. Fingers, unfortunately, it just takes a little time. But again, there's not really any other solution out there that's going to cause a reversal of that osteoarthritis in your hands. So the best time to start is really today. So the sooner you can get it on, the sooner you get out of that pain.
Well, there is light at the end of the tunnel. 6 to 8 weeks might seem like a long time, but it's light nonetheless, and pun intended. But if you stack it with maybe another anti-inflammatory stack, maybe you could speed things up a little bit, depending on what you're doing. So this has been awesome, Forrest, like
Yes.
really awesome. Where can people find out more about Kineon? You guys have great Instagram, so people follow that.
Kineon_labs would be great. And then Kineon, KINEON.io. And we're doing more and more kind of educational blogs on the site. So check us in there. Also, our commitment as founders of the company is to deliver what we're promising. And so if anyone's ever unhappy with what they've gotten, it's been a great kind of feedback loop for us to be able to improve the products ongoing. And we're very open to that. Drop me an email at forrest@kineon.io, and I'll book in a call with you. We're here to provide solutions, not to sell products. And so we want to really stand behind everything we do.
Yeah, and you guys have offered my people an amazing discount, $100 off, which is great.
Yes.
Like amazing. Back to what we are saying, accessible. This is making stuff accessible for people. And then if I get any feedback, I will let you know, of course. But I'll put all the codes and links down the bottom. Thank you for that discount. I almost feel like buying a second one. But
That's so kind of you.
it's a great idea. Like Father's Day is coming up, and what do you buy a man who has everything? There you go. Thank you for
I
your
love it.
time, Forrest. This has been a pleasure. And don't forget me when you bring out this new device at the end of the year. We'll have to talk about the endometriosis and all of it more.
Thank you so much. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the time today, and what an awesome discussion. And 100% we're gonna be bugging you more than you want us to.
Okay. Well, I will tell you to go away at some stage.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Forrest.
Thank you.